So just a quick look at crowd-based knowledge environments that I'm looking at for this particular project. I have two that I'm going to attempt to kind of expose my students to and have them use. The first one is one that I learned about in the earlier project, and it is Stack Exchange. And we'll have a look at that. I kind of narrowed it down, as you can see here, using tags, which was kind of a nice way to do that, and just looking at questions that dealt with iMovie and going from there. The other one, and I'll look at that in just a moment, is Apple Communities, and it's the iMovie Apple Community. So those are the two that I'm looking at. And in this Stack Exchange, as I mentioned, I'm in the Apple stack, and then within the Apple, I'm choosing the iMovie tag, and that really gets pretty specific. So all these questions here and answers have to do with the topic that is relevant to what we're working on right now. A couple of things that I looked at was, okay, how many of these questions actually have answers? And many of them do in comparison to other stacks that I'm involved with now. So that was encouraging. It's something that we can certainly ask questions on and kind of get our direct question answered. But one of the things is that you can always search and find maybe your question has already been answered. So that's a way to approach this, and I'll talk about that in a minute with my second point. So we'll give this a try with Stack Exchange, and then the other one that we're going to be looking at is Apple Communities, and again, it's specific to iMovie, and we've got questions here. You can ask, type in your question or your topic or whatever, and it will show you, do that quick search and show you questions, or as they call it, discussions that have already been addressed, and you could go right to that. And if not, then you just click down here and ask the community. So I'm looking forward to trying this. The crowd-based environment certainly gives us answers that are more focused and, in theory, more useful. But looking at both of these, I think there are some drawbacks with my particular clients, my students, and that is it's kind of challenging to have students who are 13 years or younger, kind of access this just because of from legal concerns. So for both of these, and I thought Apple wouldn't require it, but it does. It requires an Apple ID, which we do have a managed Apple ID that can be used. So that's a way in. Stack Exchange, though, requires that you sign up, as I did for my initial project. So that involves having, each student has to have an email, you have to create an account, you need to log in, and as we all know, that is easier said than done in the classroom setting. So I'm looking at this in two ways. Number one, it's a resource that we can search, and it's very specific, so students can go here and see if their question's already been asked. If need be, they can certainly make accounts and go through that process and ask their question. And we'll see how that goes. I'm feeling fortunate in this particular setting. This is a limited number of students I'll be working with, and they have all the credentials in the way of emails and things that they're going to need to create an account. So hopefully we can make use of kind of both aspects of this crowd-based environment that we're tapping into. And finally, in this project, the iMovie piece and creating videos is what the students want, and that's a great thing. I'm hoping simply to expose the students um, to this idea of crowd-based learning, and have them think of it as an option as they go on to high school. Don't forget about it. At least have some experience or exposure to the fact that it exists and the fact that, oh yeah, at one point in time I did do that once, um, because it's such an amazing resource for all of us to be using, rather than just doing the usual for middle school students, the Google search, and kind of having to flounder through responses and returns on that. So that's my kind of ulterior motive here, is to simply expose them to the fact that these uh, crowds, as it were, are out there, and we can make use of that, tap into it, and be a little more productive and efficient in our use, in our learning.